And to get us started, I will introduce myself. My name is Colleen Doherty. I'm a program coordinator with the Center for Research and Fellowships. I use she, her pronouns, and I am working primarily on the Laidlaw program, though it is a program that both myself and our director, Lauren Tuckley, are tag teaming for the moment. So, as I said before, we will be posting this recording to the listserv. If you haven't already joined our Laidlaw listserv, you can do that by emailing our fellowships email, which will be posted at the end of this PowerPoint, and should also be in all of the emails that you have received to even know about this session today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. To give a little bit of an overview of what really a fellowship is, for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar, a fellowship is a mechanism that provides funding or support for any opportunities that promote academic or professional development. So you can get a fellowship that will fund study abroad programs, language study, independent research like this one, any creative projects that you're interested in doing, funding for internships. So, many of you probably applied for lots of internships before and see lots of unpaid internships, but then what does it mean to try to do that and then, pay rent and buy groceries and things like that? You can apply for fellowships to provide some funding for all of those necessities while you're maybe doing an unpaid internship. Taking part in academic and cultural programs. So the Fulbright is a great example of that. And also postgraduate study, postgraduate research, or teaching. So any kind of learning or study or research or other academic work that you'd be doing after graduating with your bachelor's degree, you can apply for a fellowship to get funding for those as well. And so our office provides advising on a number of fellowships. Right now, because of our staffing situation, we're primarily advising on those more competitive fellowships. So the Rhodes, Marshall, Mitchell, Truman, the Fulbright, but our website has a number of other internship, or I should say fellowship opportunities for many of these funding opportunities. So definitely take a look at those. Obviously, the Laidlaw program is one of them. So a little bit about the Laidlaw Foundation. For those of you who have attended our info sessions previously, you've heard this already, but for those of you who haven't, the Laidlaw Foundation is a UK-based foundation founded by Lord Irvin Laidlaw. And the foundation funds a few different programs, including the Laidlaw Undergraduate Leadership and Research Program, which funds 25 undergraduate students at partner universities to develop research and leadership skills. At this time, there are 12 universities that the Laidlaw Foundation partners with, Georgetown being one of them. And those are both here in the US as well as in the UK. And as far as the undergraduate leadership and research program goes, the Laidlaw Foundation's mission and goal is to invest in education for underprivileged and underrepresented individuals to help really kind of break cycles of poverty, reduce inequality, and as well as focus on developing a new generation of ethical leaders. This is a quote from Lord Laidlaw, as far as what his thought process and purpose was in creating both the foundation and this particular program. And he has said in the past that the purpose of the program is to encourage and develop future leaders in any field of activity. Looking around the world's business and political leaders, I can't recall a time when better leaders were more urgently needed. And if you attended our information session in November and heard from the Laidlaw Foundation CEO, Susanna Kemp, she referenced, New Zealand PM Jacinda Ardern and Angela Merkel of Germany, as well as a number of other political leaders when referencing and kind of naming some of those leaders that they look to serve as, the ideal or a mentor or sort of that ideal of an ethical leader that is currently in the political sphere. So the program itself, as I said before, actually there are 14 now with Georgetown and Barnard University came on newly this year. Partners with the 14 universities worldwide to support this new generation of ethical leaders. As part of this program, we'll take part in 4 components: the research component, leadership training, a leadership and action project in the second summer as part of this program, as well as joining a global network of scholar leaders. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, but really both foundation and the program, the focus is very much on the intersections of research and leadership. So not just thinking about these 4 components as individual sort of siloed opportunities, but really thinking about them as sort of blending into one another and the intersections of all of these different opportunities, and thinking about the ways that research and academics inform ethical leadership skills, and then putting those skills into practice during the Leadership and Action Project. So what are all those 4 components? So the research component is your first summer in the program. So for those of you who are applying this cycle, will be this coming summer. And the research component is 6 weeks of funded mentored research. As we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes, the research component is a mentored program, which means that you have to identify, or we will help you identify, a faculty member from Georgetown who will mentor you through the research process and through your project. So when you're thinking about the project that you are going to be undertaking, you want to make sure that you're thinking about the faculty that you have relationships with, that have a connection to, or maybe have done research in the fields that you're studying, or the field that your project plan is part of. And that will take place this coming summer. The leadership training will take place in next academic year, so academic year 2022, 2023. And this program is developed and led by Georgetown University faculty and staff. However, there will be opportunities for guest speakers that we will be bringing in, both from other partner institutions, which include Columbia University, Barnard College, University of Leeds, the UK, the London School of Economics, as well as many, many others. Leading out of that leadership training and that leadership development opportunity, you will then take part in a 6-week long leadership project over summer 2023, where you'll really take all of that knowledge that you've gleaned both from your fellow cohort members, as well as the guest speakers and retreat opportunities over the course of that academic year into practice typically in another country than the US, though if for some reason, like COVID, you cannot travel, or for any other reason why you may not be able to travel outside of the US, you can do it in the US. But really the main component of the Leadership and Action Project is taking all of that knowledge, all of that work that you have put into the program, and then putting it into practice over the 6 weeks. And again, the 6-week project is funded by the Laidlaw program. And then throughout your entire experience with the Laidlaw program, you will be part of a network of global scholars. So the Global Scholars Network is an online community of both past and present Laidlaw scholars from all of the Laidlaw institutions, for you to really get to know and collaborate with your peers outside of Georgetown. Many folks will publish research through the Laidlaw network, partner on projects together, work on different opportunities together, and so much more. It is both a social network as much as it is an opportunity to collaborate on research and academic projects. Any questions so far about the Laidlaw program itself? Okay, well, and again, if you do have questions, feel free to put them into the chat, or you can also save them for the end. So, talking through the application materials. So while this may seem a little bit daunting, promise it is very much not. The application for the Laidlaw program contains an application form, a research project statement of between 500 and 1,000 words, a completed faculty research mentor either commitment or plan. So there are 2 Google forms that we'll go over in just a minute that consist of your research mentor plan. One is basically what your plan is for your research mentor. So whether or not you've reached out to any individuals to serve as your research mentor, if you have gotten an approval or a commitment from a faculty member, they will also submit a form essentially agreeing to be part of the program. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail in just a moment. Another component is a leadership essay of between 500 and 750 words. There are 3 prompts for this leadership essay, and you will pick one to answer. Additionally, we have asked for a resume, 1-page maximum, your unofficial transcripts, which you can download from My Access, and 1 letter of recommendation. And your letter of recommendation can be focused on academics, leadership skills, or your overall character. Now I am going to switch our sharing really quickly to the application components. And can everyone see this? Okay. Awesome, great. Okay, so like I said, the application packet will consist of your application form, which is mostly just biographical information so that we can make sure that we're tracking the right individuals as part of, that all of your materials are staying together, and that we have your contact information, as well as your recommender information. Your recommenders should be sending their letter directly to us at fellowships@georgetown.edu. If they email it to you, we'd really prefer that they email it to us instead, so that way we have it and we're not relying on you to kind of ferry that information back and forth. Of course, my toolbar is on top of everything else. The research project, again, 500 to 1,000 words, that is covering the core components of your research project. So when we're thinking about the research project, making sure to provide a pretty clear and consistent plan of how you intend to use that 6 weeks to do your research. You want to include your topic, of course, and include a research question always, as well as any backing literature that would be important to include in your research project or plan. And then, of course, any details on how you plan to conduct that research. So what are your research methods, any methodologies that you're planning on using? And of course, this is a good opportunity for you to work with your mentor ahead of time. If you have found a research mentor, if you haven't, even just reaching out to a faculty member that you do know very well on campus, or even past professors, or for those of you who are first-year students, maybe teachers that you've had in the past, just to kind of like bounce this plan off of them. For all of these components, yes, we are looking for you to answer these prompts, but we're also looking for you to understand your thought process just as much. So showing that you're able to answer the prompt and kind of show your thought process about this statement, about this project, is just as important and just as relevant. When it comes to the faculty mentor plan, everyone is required to submit a faculty mentor plan via this Google form. And this form is pretty straightforward and simple. Of course, it has your name and your email address, or I'm sorry, the faculty member's name and email address, and their title, as well as the department that they're affiliated with, and their area of specialty. So they'll be asked to submit, your name, as well as like how they know you, and then, kind of confirming that they will meet with you at least one, or that they will meet with you, excuse me, at least once a week as part of this project plan. Excuse me. If you have not identified a faculty mentor, that is okay. It is not required to have identified a mentor so much as they have to, if you have identified a mentor, they do have to submit the commitment form so that we know who has committed to this project and that they're the ones signing off on this. If you have not identified a mentor, that is fine. You will not be penalized in any way if you have not identified a mentor. Just make sure that you are submitting your project plan, and in the event that you have not identified a mentor by the time that the deadline rolls around, and you are selected to be part of the cohort, we will help you find a mentor for your project. There's a whole half of the semester between when you'll be accepted into the program and when you'll start your research. So there is a good buffer time there for us to help you find a mentor. The leadership essay. So like I said before, you have to select at least one of the 3 prompts that we have provided for the leadership essay. As we were saying before, as I said before, the Laidlaw Foundation puts a heavy emphasis on ethical leadership. And so we want to really hear from you about what you think of as ethical leadership. How are you defining ethical leadership? What are some ways, like especially with option 1, that you have proven yourself to be an ethical leader in a situation that was proved difficult to maybe resolve an issue in, or thinking about people that you look up to as leaders. And in some ways, don't think too hard about this, right? Like just being authentic and sharing authentic experiences that you've had, or your really what you think of ethical leadership is what we're looking for here. We're not looking for a textbook definition. We want to know what you are thinking about when you are thinking about ethical leadership. So there's no right answer when we're thinking about leadership essays, whether for this program or really any program. The reviewers are going to be looking at what is your thought process and how are you making your argument and how strong is your argument, rather than a right or wrong answer, right? Just as you would in an essay that you're writing for a class. There are very few times where there's going to be an objectively right answer, and really we're thinking about how are you arguing, like what is your argument and how strongly are you arguing your statement. Again, of course, your resume and your transcripts, again, 1 page max on the resume, and you can use your unofficial transcripts that you download via My Access. And then finally, again, the letter of recommendation should be emailed to us at fellowships@georgetown.edu. For letters of recommendation, we typically will suggest that you ask someone that knows you well, but that has known you more recently. So ideally someone that you have known or that you've established a relationship with here at Georgetown, or in the last year or 2 since coming to Georgetown. However, you can ask someone that you've known before. So maybe like a teacher you knew well in high school, or an advisor from a club that you had in high school. This is one of the few times that we are going to say, yeah, reaching out to maybe a teacher from high school would be okay. Typically, we ask someone that you've known a little bit more recently because you continue to have that relationship with them a lot more recently. They're going to know you a lot better, and they will be able to, they won't necessarily have to kind of get notes from you to write that letter of recommendation. You always want to make sure that it's someone that does know you very well, because they're going to be able to write a much better letter of recommendation than someone who doesn't know you as well, who might just write a form letter. And we're going to go into a lot more depth on letters of recommendation and faculty relationships at our workshop on the 18th. So make sure that you join us for that one. Any questions about the application materials? Let me go back to our PowerPoint while I'm waiting. No? Okay. All right, so next steps. So a couple of good recommended next steps moving from here. Meeting with an advisor. So you can reach out to us at fellowships@georgetown.edu to make an appointment with either myself or Lauren to kind of discuss your candidacy for the Laidlaw program and any application materials that you have. You can absolutely talk to us and like kind of bounce ideas off of us, especially when it comes to the essay components. Attend workshops. So we have a whole host of workshops that we'll be hosting over the course of the next month and a half. Related to both the Laidlaw program as well as some of the other programs that we run through our office, including our summer research, our other summer research opportunities. This week we actually have an info session on the other summer research opportunities tomorrow at noon. And if you aren't on those listservs, you can actually email undergrad research at georgetown.edu to get on that listserv as well. But we have 5 workshops just on the research proposal alone that's applicable both to Laidlaw as well as those other summer research opportunities. We'll be doing the cultivating faculty relationships one on the 18th, one on just for the Laidlaw program on writing the leadership essay, and one on writing resumes for fellowships. Yes, so I'll put the email for folks to touch base with us with any questions or get added to the listserv. Anything fellowships related, you will email fellowships@georgetown.edu. I saw Gabe raise your hand. Yes, Gabe, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, sorry, that was a mistake.
Oh, no worries. Okay, just want to make sure that I got to your question. I do. Joshua.
Yeah, hi. Thank you again for the info session. I just had a quick question about the second summer following the first summer of research. I was reading about some experiences on the Laidlaw website, and people describe like, oh, like the second summer could be like curated in a way like, oh, if they want to continue their research and or have a specific experience, and then in some cases there are internships. Will it be like a similar type of opportunity where we can have some leeway with how we spend the second summer in regards to internships, for example, for professional development?
Yes, so the second summer we are really looking to you to cultivate what that experience looks like. So your second summer, each individual cohort member's second summer with their leadership and action project is going to look different from other folks in the cohort. Because of the way that the Laidlaw program functions, the focus for that second summer is taking everything that you have learned to then apply it for yourself. And so your leadership and action project is going to look very, very different from someone else's based on your academic interests, your professional interests, your professional and personal goals, and a whole host of other things. And so your leadership and action project is going to be different from someone else's. Now, can someone have a similar or the same project? Yes. in certain circumstances, especially if you're not sure how to, form that plan, which we will be going over with the cohort as a whole once we have come together. But there are opportunities that the Laidlaw Foundation actually puts together for Laidlaw scholars to take part in, if it fits well with their, like I said, if it fits well with their goals. There are also a number of partner organizations that the Laidlaw Foundation works with for some of their other projects. And so in the past, Laidlaw scholars from other institutions have been able to take part in volunteer opportunities with those organizations. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
No, yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome, okay. Any other questions so far? Okay, oh, Adrian.
Yeah, I think it was at an info session with Lauren in the past, maybe, but someone mentioned, and then she mentioned some like info sheets designed to be sent to like a faculty professor to kind of explain like what the program is and what the role was. I was wondering if that's something that's happening, and if so, like where to find that, what the timeline on that is.
Yes, so we have those for our other summer research opportunities. So like the Smurf, Colorama, Rains. And so that may have been what she was referencing. And we can absolutely put those together for the Laidlaw as well. It's very similar. Our expectations for faculty and the mentored research with Laidlaw is a very, very similar to those other mentored research programs. And so we can definitely put those together for folks. And have them ready, at least, if not for our workshop on the 18th, hopefully a little bit before that for folks that are still looking to reach out. Other questions from folks so far? Okay, well, that's a good segue to the selecting faculty supporters. So other next steps are, and again, we'll go into a lot more in more depth about this with our program on the 18th. But if you already have an established relationship or are trying to establish relationships with faculty that you already know, or maybe have taken classes with in the past, this is a good opportunity for you to help continue to cultivate that relationship. So reach out to them, meet with them, to discuss your research proposal, your future goals. Even if they are not able to serve as a research mentor for this particular program, it is a good idea and a good opportunity to kind of discuss your goals with them and discuss, future career opportunities, for future research opportunities, even future classes, maybe to take, things of that nature. And finally, developing a timeline. So just as you would develop a timeline for any other large scale project, you want to make sure that you're developing a good timeline to draft your application, revise and edit your application in time for the deadline. You don't want to submit your first draft of your application as your final draft, because there's going to be things that you want to make sure that you tighten up. Different aspects of the application are so distinct that you want to make sure that you're running different aspects of it past different people. So again, you might want to run your research proposal past your faculty mentor or other faculty that you know. You may want to run your leadership essay past other folks that maybe some friends, maybe go to the writing center or make an appointment with the writing center to review your essay, as well as just making sure that all of your components are like neat, tidy, and together, and really making sure to give yourself enough time to review each of those components multiple times. There's a question privately in the chat to ask how to schedule a meeting. Just email us at fellowships@georgetown.edu, and with the subject Laidlaw advising or Laidlaw program advising, something of that nature, so that we know what you're looking for. And it will get directed to Lauren or I, and then we'll email you back and kind of set up a time. So of course, because we're all off campus at the moment, it will be via Zoom. So let's see. So overall process timeline. So of course, our application deadline is the 25th. We will do an initial pass of notifications in early March. So probably that week after the application deadline, there will be an initial notifications, depending on how many applications that we get. Is going to depend on how many folks that we invite for interviews, but there will be semi-finalist interviews in March. And then final notifications will go out probably end of March, early April. And then probably around mid-April, we will do a program kickoff and celebration where we'll bring the entire cohort together to kind of, go over some process and program requirements, that kind of thing, but also going over and also kind of providing a celebration opportunity to really congratulate you all as you join the cohort. And then of course we'll have an orientation retreat at the beginning of the summer. We're hoping to do June. Right now that's a tentative date. And then you will have your research summer starting probably middle to end of June into July. So that is kind of concludes this portion, I guess, of the workshop today. Of course, again, you can come and visit us when we are on campus at our office on O Street. So we are in 2 connected townhouses painted blue across from Alumni House. If you are familiar with there, you can go grab a coffee at Saxby's and then come on over and join us for an info session, or just kind of pop in and ask us any questions. You can also reach us via email at fellowships@georgetown.edu. So with that, I'm going to stop recording and